So we'll leave you with Aybee.
Aybee. Give it up for Aybee one more time, people. Let's make him feel welcome.
Yeah. Here we are.
How are you?
I'm good, brother. I'm good.
So, Mr. Aybee, for producers, artists, fans, curious people who don't know who you are, tell the people a bit about who you are.
Okay, yes. My name is Aybee from California, Oakland, California, right next to San Francisco, for some of you who've never been to the Bay Area. Been doing music since 2001 when I started my label Deepblak. I do a wide range of various musics and sounds under different aliases. Some people might know me from different projects and some from others. And that's, I'm a human being, trying to make it like everyone else.
Okay. So on that moment there, we'll leave it there for a minute. We're going to play just a little segment of a live performance of yours you did last year.
Okay.
Just to get a flavour of an aspect of what you do.
Okay.
Okay, I thought it'd be important to kind of give people an initial taste of where you're coming from. You know, I've known your music for a long time, but I've been, you know, quite interested in the kind of live aspect to your show, because I think, you know, if there's any artist, music producer out there who's kind of really got this good balance between releases and your music being almost like your, I guess, sonic canvas, you know, form of expression, your live shows definitely, you know, work hand in hand, in my opinion. So that was kind of like a snippet from the live show you did in April, right?
Yes, yes.
So in terms of your live shows, I mean, is it something that you is important to your performance? You DJ as well, right?
Yes, sir.
You know, how important is live performing to you?
I think live is extremely important in the context of when you DJ, you're selecting, right? And so you're pulling on music that you're inspired by and music from other artists, and you're playing for a group of people, and there's a relationship that you share with those people, you know, in terms of dancers and so on and so forth. When you play live, you have the capacity to create your own atmosphere for an hour and a half. You're presenting an atmosphere or a sound or a trip that you necessarily want to go on. You know, maybe it's your label, maybe whatever it is, but it's a different mindset. And you don't know necessarily where you're going to go depending on your setup and your equipment and how, you know, it's more so locking into a mood or a vibe and trying to create that and take a room of people with you for that time. But I think as an artist, it's definitely a different mindset from selecting records where it's more so your own music, you know, that you're putting together and you're creating right there on the fly in a lot of instances. So I think for the communication between, you know, listener and presenter, it's probably, you know, it doesn't get any realer than that. You know, mistakes and all, you know, you're literally building music in front of people. So.
Okay. And your current setup, it looks like what?
My current setup right now would probably...
For live, right?
Yeah, for live would be APC 40, laptop, Chaos Pad, iPhone, Novation Zio 25, sometimes my MPD, DR660, old drum machine, or like in my last Paris gig, I borrowed my good buddy Christopher Logan. I got his MPC 500 and threw that in the mix. Yeah, he took it back from me, man. But you know, we need to talk to him. Maybe he'll get that back to me for the next gig. But yeah, just for live drumming and the Korg Monotron.
Okay, you're a bit of a Monotron fan, aren't you?
I love it. I love it. This is the best piece of, cheap gear that you could get, in terms of a synth and sound design. It's very flexible. So,
And in terms of setting up for the live show, how much of your live show is prepared in advance as opposed to, performance that's done on the fly?
I try to pick out maybe certain clips that stem out maybe certain tracks and put them on the grid. I don't really necessarily know what order I'll play them in. And I try to do a combination between maybe dealing with clips and performing live drumming effects, and improvising in different ways. So sometimes it might be, you might start off drumming live, you build something, you layer on top of that, or you launch a clip, vice versa. It's just getting everything set up. It's like cooking up your ingredients and then deciding, okay, do I want to boil it? Do I want to bake it? And getting launched off from there. So,
what's the most annoying aspect of performing live?
sound.
As in sound of the club?
Yeah, the sound.
Monitoring.
The sound. Because, that's one thing I learned actually in that San Francisco show. Things sounded great, when I tested them out at home. But then I got on a function one and the room was half the size of this. And it was great clean sound, but when I went to the sampler and I launched the audio clip, I couldn't hear it.
Okay.
And so you said, okay. So you move on to,
This
something
is
else.
in front of an audience, right?
Yeah. I mean, they don't know. They just saw me.
So you're styling it out using kind of poetic license to kind of just...
Yeah. So you make adjustments, as you go on. Certain instruments, may work better in that room, than others. And so, and it's a part of live. You feel your way through it,
The important aspect of playing live, what is the thing that you can take away from every performance?
It's always something that you can do different. Like when I finish, I already am thinking about what I want to do next time. I wish I had that moment back, or something, or I should have stayed here longer, or did a little bit more live drumming, or, flipped that clip or reversed it, or just did something. You have those things that you do well in the night, and you just kind of take notes, and you take that with you to the next gig. And like you said, the more you play live, the better you get at presenting, music that way. I think one of the big things that I had to learn coming from DJing is that it's a different mentality. How you pace yourself, because when you're playing live, you're constantly doing something.
When you say pace, you mean in terms of tempos or?
You can change the tempo based on how you feel, but you cue a record with your DJ and you mix it to the next record, and then you go to your bag. Okay, what do I play next? With live, there's no bag. So you're there all the time. So it's like, if you transition from one song to the next, you just don't wait. Oh, let me cue something else up. There's, different elements, people are staring at you just like that, So you have to keep it moving. You have to stay engaged and keep building the rhythm. And, I found it extremely stressful because it felt like I played 4 hours, but it was only 1 hour because you're constantly moving, And so it's a different process.
The reason why I thought I wanted to start there, because I think that something that strikes me as you as an artist, producer, journey, you're, I guess, quite unique in this day and age where, for one, you've got your label, which is initially was your outlet for your music and your sound and your identity, which you've started, obviously, you said in 2001. And it's been pretty much that for most of your career, right?
Yeah, very correct. When I started the label, it was primarily as an outlet for me to express myself. But as with anything, once you put that energy out, people react. And so over time, you start to build relationships with people who share your sentiment, or maybe where you are sonically at that time in your life, and you form relationships and bond and community, and over time you look up and you kind of have a crew or a family or extended network, of other artists that come into the fold.
And in terms of your label, do you run it? What's the infrastructure? Is it just you yourself?
I mean, it's been me, but the last couple of years, a lot of things have changed. Now, one of the artists, African Sciences and Damon Bell, two of the guys back home in Oakland, have a lot more, input. It's a growth process in terms of you start something by yourself, but when you bring in other people, they bring fresh ideas. They bring a new outlook, and so we just sit down, kind of as a committee, and feel our way through it. And that's a beautiful thing to be able to have something that was necessarily your idea or creating a comfort zone for yourself to be creative and to have other people come into the fold, and it becomes more of, you know, a group thing. So that's kind of how we operate right now.
Okay. And do you have, taking it back to the beginning, you know, 2001, I know you were making music before that, but there was something quite poignant about you starting in 2001. I guess, you know, my understanding of it was like a knee-jerk reaction to what was happening to your, you know, career at that time. In fact,
Yeah, I was actually, you know, kind of involved in the web world, doing a little web development and some other things, and I was exposed to a lot of my friends were DJs and producers, and I just found at that time, particularly in the late 90s, it was a tremendous creative canvas just for a lot of sounds that I was digesting and being exposed to, and I became very inspired, very not inspired or kind of disgruntled with what commercial pop and music, you know, had become, and corporate kind of top-down music. But on the underground level, it's tremendously inspiring. And it drove me to start producing and working on things on my own. And from there, when I started my label, you know, I just wanted it to be free. You know, I didn't know where it was going to, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, quite actually, you know, to be honest. You know, you never do. But you just move with impulse. And so I knew that I wanted to create an avenue for, you know, for myself to get my music out, but just something that wasn't restrictive, that would allow me to experiment and grow with it at the same time.
and can you remember back then, you know, what the landscape was like in terms of, you know, you make it sound easy, like, you know, oh, I just set up my record label, but did you know?
No, yeah. Well, for me, because you know, we were still at the beginning of the digital, you know, revolution, and in terms of that becoming a mainstay in our lives, and so I took the opportunity to post a lot of music online.
Okay.
You know, I did, you know, a lot of underground remixes and take different songs and just give them away for free. And what that enabled me to do was kind of sidestep around the traditional machine and find out who was digging what I was doing. I put music out, and yeah, all of a sudden the kid in Brazil emails you back like, yo, that's nice, man. Oh, thanks, you know. And then you just keep, you find out who's into what you're doing and what they're into, and you just build a network from there. And again, no one had a map. There's no map for this, you know. And you're just instinctively using these tools to reach out to people and share your music, and it just, you know, it built from there.
You're still excited by the whole, you know, independence, you know, mindset, and
It's the only way. You know, it's the only way. There's really no excuse. I mean, because we're given all of these tools, we have all of this capacity. It's such a democratization, you know, of access to the tools now. I mean, I think you guys asked me about that SP12. Yeah. I mean, if you were a kid and you had an SP12 when I was young, I mean, you were like rich.
I know.
Yeah, you know, that some people stole those things, you know what I mean? So it was just not, it was never in the cards. And so the world we live in now, where we have so much power in terms of media to express ourselves creatively, I don't see why one would handcuff themselves, you know, and just not do it themselves. I believe in people, and I believe in the creativity of people. And so the whole idea of someone else telling you how to be creative may work in certain contexts, but with music and art, I think society gains the most when you just let people go.
How does this relate to, say, you know, your take on the business side of things in terms of, you know, sales and licensing and these other kind of opportunities?
It's a decision you have to make. You know, it's a painful decision in a lot of instances, because there's always a formula to what's working or what people are gravitating to, and you have to. That's a bridge that every artist has to cross. You know, do you go that way or do you go over there? Do you swim across the river and don't even cross the bridge? You know, so that's more of an individual, you know, decision. But again, believing in people, believing in creativity, believing in, you know, that creative consciousness, you know, that gift. I say, hey man, gamble on yourself.
Looking back, do you have a workflow that you've kept, or does it, you know, has that too evolved in terms of the way you put tracks together? So you tend to work on long players, I get.
Yeah, I definitely do. It evolves because the tools, you know, new things, new concepts, or, you know, new paintbrushes. Use a metaphor. You get these new colors, these new abilities to do different things, And, you know, it's just keeping a childlike spirit alive, or what, you know, what can I do with this and what can I do with that? And just building from there. And so, you know, if you kind of keep that that ethos alive in your head, you have a tendency to toy around and play with different things. And so yeah, I'm always looking to evolve. You know, I think a lot of artists are scared to get stuck, you know, in a rut or a cycle. So I think acquiring new things and new, you know, equipment or instruments or techniques or approaches is always healthy. And I definitely push myself to do that.
Okay. And is there an Aybee approach? I mean, you know, is there kind of like
Man, feel. You know, feel. Life is probably the biggest motivator that I have. Kerry Chandler that spoke on it one time in an interview, he was saying that, you know, you got to go out and live life. You can't just sit in the studio all day. It's the same with me. Like you hear stories about people who, oh yeah, man, I went in the studio and I made 230 beats today. And as an artist, you hear that and you're like, damn, you know, what am I doing, right? But I don't work like that. You know, I have to feel something. So maybe it's a lunch I had or a phone call or, you know, whatever it is that motivates you, just the air, you know, a change of environment. And how do you process that? Because I pull from emotions, so I have to feel something. And so once I can tap into that emotion, whether it's I'm happy or I'm sad, you know, and how does that come out sonically? You know, you sit down at the keyboard and you start playing, you know, or you start tapping or whatever it is that you do, and you're trying to express that emotion. So the more I feel like the better music I can create. Okay. You know, so sometimes it's a car that drives up the street. Maybe not here in Berlin, but where I come from, it's a very big car culture, and so people will drive up the street and you won't hear anything for 10 minutes until they get a mile away. And there's been times when I've been working on tracks and all of a sudden a guy will drive by and his bass line from his car bleeds into my production. And I'll say, damn, oh, wow, you know? And it takes me a completely different direction. So, you know, you just pull it, you know, or you hear a cat screaming in the backyard and, you know, it just somehow finds a way into what you're working on, so.
And what happens when you get stuck?
It's frustrating. Go take a walk, you know, get out of the house, go do something different to change the energy. You know, to open you back up to receive that versus, because usually when you're stuck, it's because you're trying to impose your will on the track. And, you know, you may sit down and you say, oh, it's 8 o'clock, I'm going to work, I'm going to go to the studio tonight. And you might not have it. And you'll just sit there listening to a loop for 30 minutes, you know. So just get out of the house, change the pace, do something different, and come back and you hear it with fresh ears, you know. And just submit. I try to just submit to the music or submit to the feeling and not try to, like I said, overpower it with where I think it should go. Just let it lead me, but you have to get yourself mentally in that state, you know, for that to happen.
So I guess, you know, but at some point you need to kind of, you know, start committing to things, right? You know, in terms of, you know, arrangements,
right.
You know, mix, when the track's actually finished.
Exactly.
Are these things you find quite straightforward, or are they equally as?
All three of those hats, you know, mixing, engineering, arranging, they're independent art forms. And putting the track together, you get concepts, you start to create the track, then you try to arrange it, and then you get it ready for the engineering process. But I learned to just not let them bleed over into one another. And just try to, you know, stay as, you know, as open as I can in terms of dealing with, you know, with each individual part of it. Just let it go, you know, where it goes. But they're definitely three distinct hats. Okay. You know.
And these are skills that you've developed on your primarily on your own.
Trial and error.
Yeah.
You know,
proper trial and error.
Trial and error. I mean, you know how you want things to sound. You know, sometimes people ask me, how did you get this to do that, and how to played around with it until I got it where I wanted it, you know. There's definitely technique. There's a lot of math and science involved in, you know, how you deal with music and frequencies, but inevitably I just try to feel my way through it first. And you can always go to someone who's more knowledgeable than you. You know, engineers or different friends that you have that can help you along the way when you get stuck. But I just try to stay in the feeling as much as I can. And
where does Ron Trent come into that whole kind of picture?
Ron comes into the picture via when I told you I was giving my music away, you know, just posting things online. And a friend of his actually heard the music, passed it on to him. And he emailed me one day, you know, was like, yo, I like what you're doing, what I heard, and I'm coming to San Francisco, let's connect, you know, when I get out there. And he came out for a gig, and, you know, we hung out, we ate, we laughed, we joked, you know, and got to know him on a personal level. He actually stayed in San Francisco for like 5 days. So we really hung out, you know, for a week, and got to know him as a, you know, person, and vice versa. And I was actually very apprehensive, because it was very early for me, and I was, of course, intimidated by Ron and what he's accomplished, and very, not, I won't say insecure, but just kind of like, you know, about what I was doing. But he was like, yo, man, no, this is great stuff, man, you know, and he was very, very helpful and inspirational in terms of giving me more confidence in what I was doing at the time. And that's how the relationship started.
And you went on to work on some great projects together, right?
Yeah. He took some of the music that I gave him, and he used it to relaunch Prescription. It had been dormant for a couple of years, and that was an honor within itself. He said, yo, man, I think I'm gonna take these tracks, and, you know, and I was like, you know, I, like a lot of other people, just adore, you know, that label. It just, like I said, it gave many of us consciousness of thought, like in terms of just the deep dance floor experience, what, you know, starting from the early Balance days to his, you know, later Prescription days when he and Shay kind of went their different ways, and then Anthony Nicholson comes into the fold, and, you know, that whole sound was very, very powerful in the States for, you know, a lot of producers and dancers alike. So it was kind of surreal. You're sitting there talking to someone that, you know, you have a tremendous amount of respect for their contributions to this thing. So yeah.
When you were, you know, working together, I mean, was there kind of like your thing was the bass line and his was the drum, you know?
How did
it work?
Oh man, I was sweating like a pig, man. It was just like, he's sitting right there, and I had got a drum track going, and I remember I was playing, you know, around the keyboard, and I kept going. You know, just like, you know, so he was like, no, man, go do your thing, and, you know, because you want everything to be perfect. And he taught me something very valuable that day. I had laid down some keys, and I was like, arm it again, I can do it better. He said, no, man, let it go. I said, it's off, just let it go, just keep it running. And so we just kept it running, and we just layered things. He was like, man, just always just capture the feeling. Okay. Wherever you are at that moment, don't, you know, again, don't submit to the process. Don't try to, you know, make everything so perfect. And then I found that when I went back and I listened to it, it wasn't as bad. It had a little bit more swing, or maybe it had something, an oddity about it, you know, that gave it a different flavor, and I didn't necessarily want to change it. And so I never really looked back from that point. I think that's when I stopped quantizing my bass. Okay. You know, because before then I kind of would quantize my bass lines, and then after that I just would play it in, and until I got the take I wanted, and just stopped doing that, because so part of that process, just let it go. You know, just let it go until you hit that moment. You know when you hit that moment, you know.
Time and time again, we're hearing people talk about capturing moments, right? You know, in this age of using DAWs and things, you know, presets, and being able to, you know, being quite rigid about an approach to writing. You know, actually, there's a lot to be said about, you know, everything you're talking about, spirit, capturing a moment. You know, going with your you know, even though your gut might say it's not working, just allowing, living with it, living with a past, living with a part. That seems to be very much part and parcel of what your approach to writing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's very much my approach to life, you know, so I try to align my life in the way I want to live my life with my growth in music, you know, so it's just, striking a balance between the two and letting them talk, you know, to one another. Music is so beautiful, it's so powerful, it's so much talent, it's so, you know, it's just, you know, it's divine language that we all share, you know. I mean, I think that's very powerful when you have this opportunity that many of us have to go present in different cities, and people can't even speak the same language as you, but we can hear the same chord structure, and that same tear rolls down both of our faces, you know. It's powerful. And so most of the people that I respect and admire, you know, a lot of the jazz giants, a lot of bebop is a very strong era for me in terms of I draw a lot of inspiration from that. And yeah, you can't own this. You know, it's beautiful to be a part of it, but you can't own it. And so just submitting to that and letting it teach you, you know, is extremely humbling, and, you know, just really powerful.
But in terms of the other side of the coin, you know, which is about sales and about, you know, the kind of business side of it, you know, is that something that you've been able to, you know, have they been able to live well together?
I think initially when I started, not necessarily so, because I was doing things that were not conventional, you know, and like I said, you know, commerce is based on formulas. I mean, there was a lot of people who said, oh, man, you should make this sound like that, or you should make this sound like that. But I also had people that I respected who were very successful were saying, don't change anything you're doing. Just keep doing what you're doing, you know, and see where that goes, you know. And so, yeah, it definitely is tough when you don't do what people's ears are trained to hear initially. But, you know, over time, people mature, we grow, we see things different, and then all of a sudden one day, you know, people get it or they like it or whatever. And so I never tried to put too much emphasis on the commerce side, and as much just be as honest as I can as an artist and basically pray for the rest. You just hope it works out, you know. But there's, you know, there's no formula because I can't work like that, you know. It kills, it just, for me, it kills the art.
I'm sure. And has there been a highlight to all this?
Every day is a highlight, man. You know, this is a highlight. It's an evolving process, you know. I think just the biggest moment is when, you know, when people come up to you and they say, hey, man, this song or this track, I really like that, you know. Fred P, artist, Soul People Music, he was saying something the other day, and it you know, struck a chord, was that you're sharing something. And when people may say, I like a certain song that you did, but they don't know where you were in your life at that moment. And it might have been the lowest point of your life, you know, and that gave them the maximum amount of happiness. And he was like, man, if they knew what I was thinking, you know, when I did that, that's a beautiful thing, you know. And so when you have that moment and you say, wow, I was really low, and this made that person, this got that person through work, or whatever that moment was, you know, that transference of energy, it doesn't get any more, you know, better than that.
So what's the dance scene like in the Bay Area, right? Yeah.
I guess it's pretty good. I mean, depending on, I don't know, it's what one's expectations are, you know. It's definitely not Berlin, okay, you know, in terms of, you know, more of a 24-hour, like, party cycle. You know, yeah, San Francisco, I mean, you can hit it, you can hear anything. You're in the dubstep, you'll find a dubstep party. You're in the techno, whatever variant, part of techno or deep house or whatever you're into, you will find a nice club that's probably presenting that and great DJs. Oakland has been emerging over the last 4 or 5 years and kind of developing its own scene, which is, you know, a very beautiful thing. And starting to bring international DJs, because traditionally you would always have to go to San Francisco and the Bay Area to see people from Berlin or London and other places. And so now we kind of have some places where we can bring people over and you can see them in the East Bay. So, you know, in one context is, you know, it's very, very, you know, healthy. But in another context, and you asked me this earlier, there is, in the United States, there definitely is a ceiling.
Glass ceiling,
Yeah, there's a glass ceiling creatively, you know, where you can go, because so many people have, for so many years, their ears have been trained to the commercial side of music. They still don't quite get some underground music.
But you get people that come along, right, that obviously buck a trend, you know, without naming names.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely have that, but for a lot of people, like, you know, what is this music you do? And, you know, is this such and such? No, it's not that. Well, they know like 1 or 2 people, and they try to put everybody in that box. And so there's you know, Europe has had more of a long-standing tradition with the music, and it affects, you know, how people receive it. In the States, a lot of people left electronic music alone when the major labels dumped it. And so there's a gap, you know, and each generation kind of comes and picks it up, and there's a big resurgence going on now, but which has led to much debate, and, you know, as you know, it's a good thing all in all. There's definitely a teaching capacity, you know, when you're back home, because you're exposing people to certain things that that are not normal to them. And it's a beautiful thing to see people come into maybe a deep house party or a techno party, because the first thing someone will tell you in the States is what they don't like. You know, I don't like that. Oh, really? And then they come into a party and they're the main one dancing, you know, enjoying themselves. Well, I thought you said you didn't like that. You know, you didn't have it presented the right way and in the right context. And so in the States, I think a lot of people are struggling to develop the right context, you know, of how to present certain things to, I guess, people who don't buy records, who are not part of, you know, certain circles.
So when you say the mindset of audiences in 2012-13 is completely different to audiences of 2001.
Oh, yes. There's another energy, you know, emerging. And I find it a lot more open in certain ways. See, like, one of the things I like about what was going on in Oakland is that people's ears weren't jaded. So you could bring a dubstep guy to town and folks would listen to him. You could bring a techno guy and folks will listen to him evenly and not say, well, I want to hear it this way, or he didn't play this, or he didn't play that. And so when things are kind of new to people, they're a lot more open. Whereas like, we don't have a tradition of Chicago. This is how Chicago gets down. This is how New York gets down. This is how Detroit gets down. They have a long-standing history of how they present certain things. And so, you have to deal with those rules. But back home they don't really know, so they take it all in, and that's a good thing, that's a beautiful thing, and so I've seen people talking about like iPod playlists, where you see a record label would have told you you'll never hear Shania Twain next to Theo Parrish, but when you look at people's playlists, that's exactly what you see, and so I see this opening of how people receive and deal with music that traditionally people have said it doesn't happen like that, and so that's a beautiful development.
But this wasn't enough for you. You had to pack your bags and leave.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a negative thing.
No.
You're always pushing yourself to grow.
What was the defining moment for you to go, right, that's it, I'm leaving?
It was just an evolution of wanting to get certain things done and just looking for a different canvas. I mean, let me be quite honest. I mean, where I was staying at the time, it was creatively not, aesthetically, not really lending itself for me to kind of do the things I needed to do because of certain situations within the city that were kind of hot. And so, it was, looking for, a certain peace of mind. A different air, the warmth of a different sun, just to get into a different space and see where it goes, see where it takes you. A lot of friends here in Europe that I had accumulated over 10 years, and say, hey, let's go over and see what life has in store, in a different area. How will I progress as an artist? How will I grow? How will it affect me? So I just took it on more as a challenge,
And how long have you been in Berlin now?
I've been in Berlin since October.
Okay. And how are you making it home?
How am I making it home? Man, eating great food and hanging out with great people. There's amazing people in the city, from all over the place, and it just creates a very nice creative fabric. There's a lot of electricity in terms of, motivation and inspiration, especially if you're doing music. There's so many, amazing people doing amazing things. And so if you have a wide ear like I do, you can find a myriad of things to inspire you. So, and I think that's just as an artist. As long as we're inspired, we're happy.
And that's quite a nice segue into something that would be, I think, hopefully inspirational to our audience.
Okay, so I mean, they asked me to demo something. So one of the things that I've been thinking about is inspiration. It's just capturing moments. And one thing I love about the iPhone and the great apps that come along with it is that traditionally you have to wait till you get into the studio to work on your music. And when I started playing with apps, on my iPhone, I noticed that I didn't have to get out of my bed to actually start creating. Or wherever you are. If you're on the couch.
What position? Are you kind of that, what's your kind of, do you have a...
That's personal. But yeah, you didn't, I was like, I was just kind of, playing around. I was like, wow, that's kind of dope. And I didn't get out of bed, So for me, I kind of looked at it more as a sketch pad, even though there are some very dope programs that allow you to work completely in that environment. But whatever your preference is, Logic, whatever your DAW is, you can sketch a lot of ideas and concepts, record them, and capture them. Come back to it later, and keep building that process. And so I thought I would just, show how I play around with it sometimes and come up with different things.
Okay, so what's this app called?
It's called Drum Track 8.
Okay. Okay.
So you got a little bouncy beat, right?
Yeah, cool.
Nothing super.
So I guess top down with
Nothing. Hold on, I'm gonna change the drum kit up. But nothing really, super or. So I can switch it over to the 808. give it a little bit more knock. All right.
So you just switched the kit up, right?
Yeah, I changed the drum kit, but like I said, nothing phenomenal. But you can go through different drum tracks. But so when you begin to like,
1 second.
okay,
Big up to the sound system, boys. I'm behind this beat.
So what I found is that you can just, I'll run sounds through here like a simple drum track like this, and come up with different textures. Hold on, let's go back to, right. So maybe I'm listening to that and I'm like, I don't feel anything. So, okay, I might, that might take me somewhere. If not, pause it, keep going. Just playing around with different aspects. And see that?
So that's a chaos oscillator you're using.
Yeah,
yeah?
This is a simple chaos pad. Just going through different filters, taking a basic drum pattern and just running it through different effects until I find something that that might be remotely interesting. So let's keep. Now I might like that. That might sound kind of dirty, right? So I could grab that, dump it into Ableton, or dump it into whatever else I'm working on, and then just start building something and construct it on top of that. You can keep playing with the drum pattern, put some claps in there. So you can, put different effects on here. See, that totally changed the trajectory of the track.
Bit of a delay there.
Right. So you take this, you pull your keys out, you start laying different elements. So it was very interesting how you can just take a very simple pattern, nothing super complex, but just start to add different colors to it. Until you hear something that strikes, a creative key with you. So you just, whatever, just keep playing around. Just, see, that's kind of nasty. So you could just let that run. Again, loop it up and put it in wherever you want and just build on it from there. So it's just, just, again, sketching.
Capturing moments, I guess.
Yeah, just capturing a moment. See, that's a whole nother, vibe. It takes you in a whole nother direction. So that, that's just basically wanted to show you something relatively simple, you can take and just start to, get yourself motivated and save that, you can save it in here, or you can, save it in, like I said, whatever, DAW that you work in.
Mm-hmm. To some people, there's yoga, but to you, there's the...
Yeah.
Should we just leave you to it?
Yeah, just keep playing. See, that's nasty. I mean, that's something you can play with. So it's just, just finding a way to get yourself, working. Like I say, you can be laying in your bed doing this. So, and take it to your studio whenever you feel the time. So.
And what other apps are you rocking on the iPhone right about now?
Nano Studio. It's a great one. There are tons of great synths. The Animoog is a great synth. Addicted Synth. Korg has apps. Most of the major, music, making companies have some type of interface for the iPhone or the Android or whatever, And like I said, even if you don't necessarily want to do everything inside of there, it's a great sketch pad. Just look at it as a digital sketch pad. If you're on a plane or wherever you are, you can do some pretty cool things.
Constant inspiration.
Exactly.
Cool. Okay.
When you're playing your live sets, are you only doing loops?
No.
No, I mean
Yeah.
when you're only controlling Ableton, Ableton only for loops, or is it also for the drums and other stuff?
I have a tendency to like to keep the drums separate, just for the processing power.
I had the same experience.
Yeah, Yeah, because you know it's going cool, right? And then you hit some chords or you start drumming, and then all of a sudden it might glitch out. So just to keep Ableton as stable as possible, I'll just run a drum machine into a separate channel, you know, and just do live drumming there or whatever, and keep it separate. I did that too when I first started out, and I was like, okay, I need to move that away and just kind of keep Ableton focused on certain things, because I like to use it to run a lot of effects, with the APC and so on and so forth.
Glitching when you get over 50 or something.
Exactly. You get about 30 minutes in, and yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what's next for you?
Next-
You're eating well. Yeah, you've got you're acclimatizing to the.
Yeah, just adjusting. Album should be coming out in about 6 weeks. I mean, it's getting pressed now. It got delayed. We had some issues cutting side A, but yeah, just getting ready for that. Double vinyl should be out, like I said, within the next weeks or so. Start shipping to various distributors. Excited about that finally to get that out and into the air, and just getting the first quarter projects ready, for the label. Working on a few remixes and things for other labels, and just staying busy, absorbing the new environment of Berlin, the air, the vibe, and see where it goes.
And live.
Live. Oh, definitely looking forward to doing as many live sets I can this year, because it's for me, like I said, it's a new creative canvas, and it allows you to do so much, and like I said, Jonah Sharp. I don't know if you're familiar with Jonah, but he has a live group with Move D called Reagan's. And Jonah has been doing live for years, and he actually did that party where my live set was recorded from that you played earlier. And he was saying that, it's the closest you'll come to jazz. When you take these machines and you just hook them together and you go. And you just start improvising, and so it's a really exhilarating, feeling when you hook them up in that way. And so for a lot of us, yeah, that's the feeling and the vibe that we're trying to get,
And on that feeling, we'll leave it there. Aybee, thank you very much.
Thank
indeed.
you, man.
Yeah.
Much appreciated.